So it's Karina here. So today I'm answering the question, how can I use my yoga ball in pregnancy and what can I do? So I'm going to show you some positions that you can use. Oops. Oh dear. I'm going to show you some positions that you can use and positions that you can also, which are helpful in labour. Unfortunately today I've actually lent my birth ball out, so I'm going to show you using a chair, but hopefully you can use your birth ball because I gave you my word that I would be here at 12 o'clock, so I'm here. And a little bit later today I'm going to get my birth ball and then I'm going to do another video on the birth ball. But you can just use your birth ball to follow along while I use the chair, okay? Before I start, I really like to say something about being authentic. It's kind of one of the biggest lessons that I've learned this year, to be authentic. If you think about it, your word costs you nothing, and yet it is the most valuable thing that you have. So this morning, I gave my word that I would be somewhere, and somebody was late. And the impact that had on me was that I was unable then to meet somebody else, and then I was rushing to be here. So I really feel if that's one thing that you can maybe take into next year, is that when you actually give someone your word, you really mean it. And lots of people are very easy at saying, okay, I'll be there, and knowing full well that they probably won't quite make it there or be there. And it kind of costs a lot of pain and a lot of discomfort to people. So really, when you say something to someone, I'll call you, or I'll be there, or I'll do something, if you focus on really asking yourself if you can really commit to that, it will honestly make a transformation in your world. And I always say to my children now, and they say, oh, why do we have to rush? Why? And I said, because I've given someone the commitment that I'm going to be there and we will be there. And like I say, it costs you nothing, your word, and yet it is the most valuable thing that you have. And it really will make transformations in your life if you honour your word. So here I am, honouring my word, doing a birth ball, showing you what you can do on a birth ball without a birth ball. So there we go, you can figure that out, whatever that means. So what we're going to do is, imagining my chair is the birth ball, and this is for pregnant ladies, this video. So what you're going to do, I'm just going to move these chairs out of the way. You are going to drape yourself. You may want to put a cushion underneath your knees if the floor or your mat feels too hard. And basically you can drape yourself over the birth ball. So remember, this is the birth ball. You can turn so you may have to kind of just readjust yourself, and then just rest your head over the birth ball and then wrap your arms around the side of the ball, and you can gently just rock from side to side. So obviously I can't rock because I haven't got the mobility of the chair, but you can rock from side to side, and you can have your partner kneeling next to you with a hand on the pelvis, just moving you from side to side. So almost like you're lying down in your belly like when you were able to, and you're just kind of just taking the pressure off the lower back. So the birth ball allows you to have a fluid mobility in the body that maybe you wouldn't be able to get without using it. Okay? The birth ball also encourages the baby to get down into the pelvis. It encourages the baby to rotate if baby is in a posterior position. So we want babies to be with their spine against your belly and their head facing downwards when you're getting towards the end of your pregnancy. So if you're draping over the ball, this is helpful, but being on the ball as well is going to encourage baby to be down. So at the moment, relaxing over the ball is just going to help relax the muscles in the back and just allow you to get a bit of movement in the hips here, okay? So we're going to come to sitting on the ball, and you're going to sit with your feet nice and wide apart. You can take them really wide. If you have issues with your pelvis, if you have pelvic girdle pain or any kind of back pain, you need a bit more stability, so you may need to bring your feet to get your legs in a little bit, maybe at no wider than hip width, okay? So if you look at my position, hopefully you can see a little bit. I'm not going to move the camera, but basically we've got a nice 90-degree angle here. Often what I see is people come to class and their birth ball is really small, and they're sat right down and their hips are a lot lower than their knees, and then that causes that isn't very stable on the back. So a nice firm birth ball is good with this nice position here, and then we're not straining on the legs, okay? So when we're in this position, we're sat on the birth ball, and you can just begin to circle on the birth ball. So if it feels comfortable, you rest your hands on your legs here like this, and you just begin to circle. So like I say, most people will have the legs nice and wide, okay? You can turn the feet slightly out, and just begin to circle. So this nice rhythm and this nice fluidity is really helpful on the body, okay? So it's really relaxing, it's really calming. You can just take a nice inhale in through the nose and exhale out through the nose or out through the mouth. So you can open the chest as you come forward, and as you go back, you can just tuck the pelvis back a little bit as you go back. So see how much movement you can get in the spine, and then see if you can change the direction. Very nice. So another nice tip is you can be sat on your birth ball here, and your partner can be on a chair behind you, and they can have, so imagine, let's pretend I'm now the partner on a chair and you're in front of me on your ball, and you can just lean back into me on your ball, and your partner can either rest their hands underneath your armpits and just hold you, and you can just lean back, which actually is a good birthing position because you can just tip your pelvis forward and you can birth baby, so they can support you. Or they can just wrap their hands around, holding onto you and holding onto baby with their legs nice and wide, so they can bring you in and you can feel really supported. Okay, so now I'm back being the pregnant lady on the ball now, okay? And we're now going to move from side to side. So just rocking from one side to the other. If it feels comfortable, you can lift up the sit bone. If you have any issues with the pelvis, then you don't want to be lifting up the sit bone. You want it to be nice and stable, okay? So just see how that feels for you, just rocking from one side to the other. So when you spend time on the ball in your pregnancy, it really allows and helps baby to descend into the pelvis. So we're using, and in labour, we're using gravity just to encourage baby to get right down onto that cervix. So just rocking from side to side. So in the early stages or in pre-labour, you can just get on your ball and just begin just to rock from side to side. So maybe you're doing just everyday things and you just feel a contraction coming on, and you just rock from side to side, and then maybe that contraction goes away and you've got a chair here, and you could just rest over the chair, perhaps put a cushion here and just rest forward, leaning forward, however that feels for you. Just find something like, for example, this isn't that comfortable, so find something that you could rest on comfortably. say in between contractions. And just take a few breaths. Okay, so back on the birth ball, we've done some circles and we've done some side to side. And we're just going to now just do some forwards and backwards. So again, if you have issues with the pelvis, you want to have your feet no wider than hip width apart. And then you can just move forwards and backwards. So opening the chest as you come forward. As you go back, just feel the sit bones gliding under. And obviously at any time, if you feel any discomfort, just ease off or just stop the movement. We're just flowing with the breath. A nice inhale as you come forward and exhale as you go back. So bringing that to a close, you can now begin to move in a nice figure of 8 with the pelvis. So just like you're drawing a figure of 8 on the ball, and this could be a small figure of 8, or it can be a nice, if your legs are nice and wide, it could be a nice big figure of 8, depending on how you're feeling. So all these things you can do in pregnancy and or in labour. And if you do them in pregnancy, then you'll get to know what feels good and what isn't really for you. So we've done a nice figure of 8, and then you can change direction. Okay? So something else which is nice to do on the ball is to do a U shape. So you'll send your bottom back behind you, going to one side, and then sending it back and going to the other. So just moving with the breath as you move from one side to the other. And notice how with the perineum on the ball, you don't have the pressure on the cervix and on the vagina rather. You haven't got that hard pressure like if you were sat on a chair like me. But so that's really great in labour. So you've got the support, but you haven't got the hard pressure of a chair or a hard surface underneath you. But notice how we can move freely, more freely perhaps, with less strain if we weren't on the ball. You could put some music on here and you could just gently rock with the music. Okay, and bring that to a close. So one last thing I'd just like to add is that notice how when we're sat on the ball, we can turn our feet inwards with our toes facing each other, and we can bring our feet out with our toes facing out. So we can move in and out. So when we bring our toes inwards, but if you place your hand on your sacrum and bring them out and then bring them in, you can feel something happening down in the pelvis. So when we bring our toes together and our heels out, so our knees are coming in, this opens the pelvis. So in labour, it's really quite good to have the toes together because we're creating a wide outlet in the pelvis. So often when if you're in the birthing pool and you can just bring your knees together, or even if you're squatting and you bring your toes together, that opens the back of the pelvis, which gives you much more room and more space. And after all, giving birth is about creating space. Coming to pregnancy yoga is about creating space in the body, making everything wider, opening everything up. Okay? So I will, at some point, it may not be today if I don't get my ball, but at some point I will do another video on the ball. But hopefully you've got the gist of things you can do on the ball anyway, without me actually being on a ball. So I hope you enjoyed that. Obviously I teach birth ball classes in my classes, but wherever you are in the world, hopefully you found that useful. If you have any questions, please ask here. And we're just going to finish with bringing our hands to our hearts and focusing on our hearts, closing our eyes for a few moments, taking your attention to the base of the spine, and inhaling from the base of the spine all the way up to the top of your head, and exhaling over the top of the head all the way down the front of the body, all the way down to the toes, and inhaling from the heels all the way up, like you're drawing an egg shape around your body. So inhaling up to the top of your head and exhaling over the front of the body and all the way down to your toes. So a nice calming breath, which is keeping you and your baby safe. So one more. And slowly opening the eyes, coming back into the room. So namaste everybody. Have a lovely day. I hope that was useful. Okay, bye bye.